if I'm correct, also not for the brominated products, but I think you have a range of organochlorine productions, and so maybe also for the unintentional PCNs and unintentional hexachlorobutadiene, some of these organochlorine production might be interesting to assess. And of course, I mean, you have seen the NIP of Kuwait, the brominated flame retardants are of course in many of your products. The same for the chlorinated paraffins are heavily imported to the Middle East. And with your firefighting foam, PFOS and PFOA is highly relevant. And also PFOA might be relevant for some of the current uses. But I mean, this we will see when you are now doing your NIP update. So now you would have a chance for some questions to some of these product groups.
Yeah, I am requesting all the participants, like it is a good opportunity to interact with Roland. So if anybody has any doubts or any intervention, you can raise your hand or you can directly involve.
Yes, if not, I mean, then the presentation seems clear.
Yeah, I think, yeah, if anybody has like any hesitation, if they can do the message also. So
yeah, you can also put it in the chat.
Yeah, so Dr. Roland,
okay.
he can give the reply, or I will convey this message to Dr. Roland.
Yeah.
So,
no, yes, I mean, we had already now a range of workshops for Iraq, for Bahrain, for Qatar. Yeah.
So in this case, now maybe I can, Dr. Kei is available now. So now I will invite Dr. Kei, BRS Secretariat, for their opening remarks. So dear Kei, the floor is for you. Now you can share your screen and you can start your opening remarks.
Hi, good morning, colleagues. My apologies that I was late a little bit. I informed Yassar in advance, but I have two children who goes to school at 8 o'clock, and I had to drop them off in the morning. But I'm pleased to join you this call this morning, and I'm fully aware you had a good meeting yesterday. So this is the second day of your regional NIP workshop, kindly facilitated by KISR, SCRC-KUWAIT. Thank you very much for the collaboration with all the focal points from your region. And I'm also happy to see some of some of the names of familiar friends. I think I can see, yeah, some of the colleagues. Unfortunately, the COVID is preventing us from meeting face-to-face. Otherwise, we could have had more direct communication. And online workshops, online meetings are always not the same feeling as when we have face-to-face training. But still, I think that this is a great opportunity to interact, and thanks already, Roland, for giving the presentation on NIP. And I'd be happy to also follow up with you, not just only during this workshop today, but also following the meeting. So I will now try to share my screen to give my first presentation. I heard, is it still the case? Yes, sir. I can give two presentations this morning.
Yeah. Actually, the initial speaker from BRS means from the Basel Convention Director of Egypt. He is not available today due to some health issue. So I would like to give the floor to Dr. Kei for her series of talk. So she will give two talks. So before I am giving the floor to Kei, I may give some brief introduction to Dr. Kei. Actually, Dr. Kei is a program officer of the Science and Technical Assistant branch and Governance branch of the Secretariat of the Basel, Rotterdam and Stockholm Convention. She coordinates scientific works of the Stockholm Convention's POPs Review Committee and Rotterdam Convention's Chemical Review Committee, facilitating the process of reviewing and listing of new chemicals under the convention. Her expertise include industrial, chemical and waste management, developing inventories and national implementation plan, risk assessment and environmental monitoring. Since the adoption of the Basel Convention on Plastic Waste Amendments in 2019, Kei has been the overall coordinator of the plastic-related activities under the BRS Convention. She manages technical assistance project of the BRS Convention, in particular those related to plastic waste, industrial, chemical and NIP review and update. She holds a PhD and MSc in the field of environmental analytical chemistry and organic geochemistry respectively. So now I am giving the floor to Kei. Dear Kei, please go ahead.
Thank you very much for this very kind introduction. Very honored to be introduced in that way. Yes, indeed. So I've been in the Secretariat since 2006. So it's been pretty long. But I've been following all the review processes of new chemicals, and new chemicals that were reviewed by the POPs Review Committee and eventually listed under the Stockholm Convention now has the second life, where parties need to implement those chemicals for the Stockholm Convention provision. And here today, I will, in my first presentation, I will explain, as you've seen in the title, guidance documents that were developed under the convention and also by partners to assist parties in developing and updating the NIP. And one of the key reasons why we consider that your region is important for providing this technical assistance is that you are all aware that the rate of national implementation plan submission from the Arabic-speaking countries is particularly low, despite the fact that we consider you have already certain level of development with regards to information collection capacity and national institutional capacity. And I think that it is important that the government realizes how crucial the submission of NIP is in relation to the implementation of the Stockholm Convention. It is the starting point, and to make the country more accountable to the implementation of the Stockholm Convention. So each and every party is required to submit initial NIP, and then review the NIP already submitted in a periodical manner, in particular when new chemicals are listed under the convention. So here, this is the website of the NIP. I'm sure you have visited once, and this is the main door where you can find all the guidance documents available. I must admit that the website, this tab, and currently there are guidance documents that needs a little bit of updating itself and replacement as a newer version become available. And it might look a little bit chaotic, but we are making progress. And please do visit this website to obtain the guidance documents. So the first and most important part of developing NIPs is on this very left column hub of this page, developing NIPs. Here there are 4 guidance documents. 2 of them are from the Stockholm Convention COP decisions that clarifies what parties need to do. And then there's step-by-step companion guides. This was developed right after the listing of 9 new POPs to guide parties what needs to be done in order to review and update the NIP. And then there is this backbone guidance document, guidance for developing a national implementation plan for the Stockholm Convention, which was revised in 2017. And this document is available there. And currently we are developing e-learning tool together with UNITAR and the help of a consultant expertise to sort of make this guidance for developing NIP in a more interactive and user-friendly manner. So this will come and be available hopefully by the end of this year. And once it is available, we'll share the link with you. Here in this NIP guidance document, it describes the steps to review and update NIP in phased approach. The phase 1 is to establish coordinating mechanism, because you will need to have within the country good coordination mechanism or a committee that contains all key stakeholders, not just only Minister of Environment, but also Minister of Economy, Minister of Health, or other ministries that needs to be included in the consultation, as well as stakeholders such as industry and NGO. Then in the phase 2, it is important to understand the situation of the chemical in relation in your country. And for this purpose, establishment of POPs inventory and assessment of national infrastructure capacity is described in phase 2. Based on this information in the phase 3, countries are to set priority. Sometimes if you have a hot spot identified or particular chemical that is more relevant to your country, you can prioritize the implementation of the convention. Then, based on that priority setting, now the phase 4 is to formulate the NIP. And finally, once you formulate the NIP within the country, it has to be endorsed and submitted. And sometimes NIP gets stuck in this step. You have hired a consultant, you have invested a lot of money to develop NIP, but in some cases, countries fail to actually submit the NIP to the Secretariat. So this is also a very important step. And each stage, we have a relevant guidance document developed. So here the screen shows at the phase 1 level. It's important, first of all, to know what are the new listed POPs. So the presentation like the one that was given by Roland, very helpful to know the background of the listed POPs, what are the specific exemptions listed within the decision adopted by the COP. So this kind of basic information can be found in the fact sheet. We have fact sheets for each and every newly listed POPs. And also scientific information regarding these chemicals. For example, what kind of toxic properties they have, what kind of environmental fate these chemicals have. Those are described in risk profiles that are adopted by the POPs Review Committee. And the availability of alternatives, what kind of socioeconomic cost there will be, depending on the countermeasures. That kind of evaluation is described in risk management evaluation documents developed by the POPs Review Committee. And we have risk profiles and risk management evaluation documents for every chemical, new listed chemicals, and that's available on our website here. And then another document that could be useful at this stage is a checklist for the legislator. And this document provides you with main legal or regulatory framework that could be affected by listing of new chemicals. So those are the available guidance documents. And here at this stage, you should be identifying technical and financial assistance needs, so that if you have the necessity for requesting additional assistance from the Secretariat or from Jeff, you can then request after this stage. And then you will also need to assess the current situation in your country. to know whether it is meeting the Stockholm Convention's requirements. You will also need to, within the coordination mechanism, agree on the work plans and responsibilities, what are the steps that need to be taken within the coordination mechanism developed in your country. So those figures provide potential institutional framework for such NIP coordination. Then at the phase 2, where you are to develop inventories and assessment of national infrastructure, we have a series of guidance on POPs inventory development. There's one that describes in general POPs inventory guidance, and then chemical specific documents. So in the past, we had very long guidance documents, which are very helpful when you have to develop guidance documents in detail. But in addition, we developed a little bit of concise version so that the government authorities can also understand what is it needed in the inventory development process. So you can consult POPs inventory development guidance. And then also we have alternatives guidance for each chemical. The website here, so please do visit. We have compiled all the information on alternatives in those pages. And then in order to meet other requirements in relation to best available technique and best environmental practices, there are guidance documents on that web for both unintentionally released POPs, Annex C, and for the chemicals listed under Annex A and B. And finally, the toolkit for identification and quantification of dioxins and furans and other unintentional POPs. This toolkit is focused on implementation of Article 5 of the Convention. In this process, it is also important to look at the Rotterdam Conventions because it provides information on the control of import and export of POPs. And many of those POPs are also listed in Annex 3 to the Rotterdam Convention. And this page provides some guidance on how to go about the implementation of the Rotterdam Convention. Here, the additional guidance that are provided by UNITAR. So currently we have one national profile guidance for chemicals and waste platform, and then another one that relates to assessment of infrastructure and capacity. Those learning platform by UNITAR are already useful, and in addition, as I was saying, we are developing national implementation plan guidance under UNITAR platform. So this is still to come. We have additional guidance documents. As you are aware, PCB is still a very big issue, although in some countries, although the deadlines for stopping the use of PCB in closed application is coming to an end in 2025, very soon, and countries are required to ensure environmentally sound waste management by 2028. So GEF, we are working closely with the GEF to ensure we have enough additional funding to support countries to meet those deadlines. Still, although it was listed together with initial 12 chemicals, countries still needs to report on the situation to the Secretariat and then make sure that this will actually happen within the deadline date. We now have DDT also. I think you might have heard that WHO announced the vaccine for malaria, and that we will release a press release shortly to say how this might have impact, especially DDT. there is specific guidance on that. And FAO has the prevention and disposal of obsolete pesticide guidance. And another kind of information here is to assess health and environmental impacts of POPs. We have guidance on the Global Monitoring Plan, GMP, and related guidance that is on sampling, screening, and analysis of POPs in products and articles. This guidance was recently revised, updated by Roland to include more new information on sampling, screening, and analysis guidance for newer chemicals listed under the convention. The risk profiles and also OECD EChem portal provides additional information on risks, health risks, environmental risks of those chemicals. Now, legal frameworks to implement the Stockholm Convention. And this document is currently being updated. There will be, I hope that the updated version will be available by end of the year. And I think this guidance document will be very important because it will provide how countries can update their legislation, regulation, while also not just only for the Stockholm Convention, but ensuring the implementation of the related conventions, as well as SAICM. And this will have a bit more synergy in terms of implementation and what information from the guidance can be incorporated in the updated need. We also have guidance on the labeling of products, and then finally the guidance for strengthening the regulatory framework. This document is a little bit old, it's from 2012. Hopefully this could be updated in coming years. With regard to socioeconomic aspects, we have guidance on calculation of action plan costs. This was updated in 2017, as well as socioeconomic assessment document in 2017. However, I think that we would need a bit more of feedback from countries using those guidance documents, as we find it a bit difficult to make these guidance documents useful. It seems that some countries are not really looking at those. Now, in phase 3, we have too fast. In the priority setting, so you can continue to use this guidance on calculation of action plan costs for priority setting. And there's another guidance from UNITAR, organizing the national priority setting. Those are the workshops that took place a long time ago, but could still be relevant at this stage. Then we have formulation of national implementation plan stage, where you could also look at the Basel Convention technical guidelines on ESM of waste, POPs waste guidelines, would also provide further information on how to deal with the waste management. The IOMC's toolbox on decision making can also be consulted at this stage. And then a few other guidance documents developed by the UNEP could also be very helpful. One that relates to chemicals control, and another one relates to legal and institutional infrastructures. Those guidance is called LIRA guidance, if you might have heard about it. Then at the endorsement stage, it is important that you organize a national level workshop to communicate clearly the need that you have formulated. You need to consult all stakeholders, which you have done at the beginning stage and also in the development stage, but at the final stage is also very, very important, as implementation plan is meant for the implementation itself, and need to have this nationally understood and endorsed. And after this step, you can transmit the NIP to the Secretariat, to the COPs through the Secretariat. So this was the phased approach, and I hope that provided you with sufficient information. Then I can one question on the chat box.
Yeah. There is one question from Shiba, so you can just have a look. Should I read for you?
Yes, please.
Yeah. In 4 steps, NIP submission, Dr. Ohno mentioned that the countries are not able to submit their NIP despite hiring consultant. What may be the reason? What should we understand by endorsement of the NIP? Is it the review process she is talking about?
Right, thank you very much. So this is really a few cases that I am aware of that countries have formulated the national implementation plans, but not able to have that NIP endorsed, because as it is very important to have coordination mechanism at the beginning. So you engage stakeholders from the preparatory stage very well. Otherwise, it will make the endorsement stage very difficult. What is needed is that to have your government support, that this NIP can be transmitted to the Secretariat. It's an official submission to the COP through the Secretariat, and sometimes government changes and they no longer agree on the content, or there are some longer administrative process that is hindering the transmission process to advance. There are different reasons, but it's not the technical reason, but it's more administrative reasons that stops the submission of the NIP. But many of the issues could be solved or help more smooth endorsement if you could have from the preparatory stage to engage stakeholders very well, have good agreement and political understanding on the NIP process. And I think Roland can help a bit more to add.
Yeah, Roland, he already raised his hand. Roland, please.
Yeah, actually, I have rather a question to Kei. Yeah, but I mean, no, I agree with you, Kei, that for some countries, this agreement from the government is a complicated process, and that it's very important to engage. What I normally do is that the NIP draft is really sent to all stakeholders for commenting, and that you see that you get commitment from all the different stakeholders, and that from the beginning you need to be clear what kind of approval you need from the government or from the parliament or just from the ministry. Yeah, it really depends from country to country. Yeah, some country the submission is very easy because it can be handled within the environmental ministry, and for some countries it is more complex. That they have to go through the parliament. Yeah, so this should just be clarified in the beginning, that it's clear, okay, these steps we will need before the submission, and then normally there is a smooth submission. Now, my question to you, Kei, thanks for the presentation, was you said that you have developed or are developing a legal document which should be ready by the end of the year. We have early December a workshop for Palestine, and in that workshop I was considering a presentation on legal. So might it be possible, let's say, to present already there a bit on the content of this guidance? Right.
So the guidance document already exists as here, developing national legal frameworks. So if you could have a look at this document, and that would be great. But what we are trying to do here is to update this guidance document, and if when you undertake your workshop, and if it's available, indeed can share. But at the moment, the content is in here, and we're trying to make this document a bit more readable.
Okay, good. No, then we can see before the workshop. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we did receive a lot of questions related to how to go about updating the framework, especially for those industrial chemicals. It gets complicated.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I mean, starting from legal limits in drinking water for the fluorinated and so on. Yeah, it's very good if you do an update and if, let's say, key issues are clarified there. Yeah, super. And some examples probably you will include. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Any other questions?
I feel nobody has raised their hand or they didn't intervene. So I think you can move on to your next presentation.
Okay, let me then share my screen once again. So in the there. Is it showing now?
Yeah, it's clear now. Super good. You can go ahead.
Excellent. Yes. So as I was introduced, that I also coordinate the plastics related work, and I thought that maybe it could be interesting for you to share some information on addressing POPs and plastic pollution. So here you can see how global chemicals and waste management is being addressed at the international level. Stockholm Convention, as you know, is on POPs. It controls production, use, import, and export of the substances. Whereas the Rotterdam Convention, this is about information exchange and will ensure decision-making on exports and imports of certain hazardous chemicals, mainly that are listed under Annex 3 to the Convention. Then under the Basel Convention, it controls the transboundary movement of hazardous waste and other waste and ensure that the wastes are managed in an environmentally sound manner, as close as possible to the location of the generation. It also promotes prevention and minimization of the generation of waste, and it has the largest number of parties, 188 parties to the convention. Other chemicals and waste management conventions include like Minamata Convention on Mercury, Montreal Protocol on ozone depleting substances, and then this voluntary framework on SAICAM covers a large scope of chemicals. With regard to plastics, because as you know that plastics are used across economy and in diverse downstream areas, including like packaging, construction, transportation, and so on. And in the production of plastic products, it includes the intentional use of additives such as stabilizers, fillers, plasticizers, anti-fog, anti-static, or UV protection. There are several of those applications. And yes, that includes oil, dirt, water repellents, flame retardants, and so on. And those additives provide very desirable and useful material properties, but some of the additives are, however, has potential to contaminate the environment, or it may affect human health. And they can also be released from plastics during the recycling and recovery processes, and also from the products produced from recyclates. And that's why the issue of brominated flame retardants articles that might be recycled is to have particular attention. Then now, here you go. So the Stockholm Convention on POPs lists, you have the chemicals in Annex A for elimination, B for restriction with acceptable purposes, and C is for unintentional releases. And then there are other chemicals under review in accordance with Article 8. And if you look at plastic additives, contaminants, or byproducts, those listed in Annex A for elimination includes substances like brominated flame retardants, like deca-BDE, octa and penta-BDEs, hexabromocyclododecan, other brominated flame retardants, and then a set of fluorinated substances, PFOA, its salts and PFOA-related compounds, and then chlorinated substances like short-chain chlorinated paraffins, PCB, and polychlorinated naphthalenes. And then in Annex B, which has acceptable purpose, includes PFOS salts and PFOS-F. With regard to unintentional release, so dioxins and furans or PCB, those could be released when plastics are burned, condition that's not full combustion. Then substances under review. Now we have PFHXF, it's salts and PFHXF related compounds. Those are recommended for listing already in Annex A and will be considered at the next face-to-face segment of the COP to be held in June 2022. And then another substance, Decorum Plus, this is flame retardant, and UV328, UV suppressor additive to plastics under review. And in addition, I still don't have those substances in this slide, but long chain perfluorocarboxylic acid, LCPFCA. This is another set of PFAS substance were nominated by Canada. It will be considered at the next COPS review committee meeting. And the UK nominated listing of medium chain chlorinated paraffins, MCCPs, and that has been used as alternatives to SCRCs. And so again, some of those substances have been alternatives to those already listed under the convention, like alternative PFOS. And you can see some of those substances, regrettable substitution, being nominated again or listed under the convention, and many of them are plastic additives. So yeah, here it summarizes some of the chemicals under review. UP328 Decorum Plus, and here new proposals that are not yet listed here, but long chain FCA and medium chain chlorinated paraffin. And I would like to also share with you the information on the Basel Convention plastic waste amendments that you might have heard about. This was adopted in 2019 and it became effective on 1st of January 2021. These new amendments, they have new entries in Annex 2 to the Basel Convention, which defines other waste of concern, and that included plastic waste, including mixtures of plastic waste, under a code called Y48. And now those plastics requires prior informed consent. That means that the receiving country needs to express agreement for import before the trade happens. And when the trade happens, before that, the exporting country and importing country make sure that the receiving place has capacity for environmentally sound waste management. And then the new amendment also have new code A3210. By this, it clarified that plastic waste that contains hazardous chemicals, such as POPs, are considered hazardous plastic waste. Therefore, it includes, for example, the waste that have brominated flame retardants under the Stockholm Convention, or like pesticides containers, the pesticides that are hazardous are considered hazardous plastic waste and therefore require prior informed consent procedure. The new amendment also clarified what are types of plastic waste that could be traded without this procedure in order to ensure effective recycling process. So clean plastic waste that are readily available for recycling now under B3011, and this could be traded without procedure. And you might have seen the news after the adoption of the amendments that some countries are sending those waste back to the exporting countries as they are not fulfilling the requirements under the convention. And you might have heard that prior to the adoption of this amendment, China has banned the export of plastic waste, and that happened in 2018. And you can see that from that year onwards, the quantities of plastic waste imported or exported has changed dramatically. And this red graph shows the quantity in China. And while the quantity of plastic imports to China has dropped dramatically, you can see that in other countries like Vietnam, Thailand, and Malaysia had increased instead, which means that the plastic waste changed its destination from China to other countries, and that led to all other waste issues. And in order to support countries to implement the Basel Convention, as well as the Stockholm Convention in relation to additives, the Secretariat is providing technical assistance projects thanks to donors like the European Union, Canada, France, Germany, Japan, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, and the Norwegian Development Cooperation Agency. We have had several rounds of technical assistance project application, and we are currently implementing a number of projects. One of them is in Sri Lanka and Ghana, where we are developing plastic waste inventory, just like Stockholm Convention IP process, develop inventory first in order to understand the scope of the issue and prioritize what to tackle. And that prioritization process is under the ESM strategy, Environmental Sound Management Strategy Development. And once this is clarified, then also support legal and institutional framework strengthening and awareness and enforcement work by which we can then convince other stakeholders to also take action in the country. Another example, we have a project in Malawi and Zimbabwe. It was supported by Norwegian Retailers Environment Fund, which is a private sector. And another set of projects we're implementing in mountains and remote areas. I know that even in your region, you have some mountainous region which require special attention in terms of waste management, because often that marine litter and plastic pollution gets more attention in coastal countries, but as you know, waste are generated inland, and they could be transported to ocean through rivers, and it could also directly impact mountains. We have this project. And under a small grant program on plastic waste, implemented by regional centers. And currently we have 14 pilot projects implemented by regional centers. So, and we will have a third call for project proposals. And this time we will also extend project proposals from countries. And so we would welcome expression of the technical assistance needs from countries. You can write an email directly to me, and we can consider and fundraise for plastic waste related projects. And plastic waste, once you say it's just sounds like it's just a waste management issue, but it actually does affect also the implementation of other conventions, particularly the Stockholm Convention. So we have very much working in synergies. And finally, I wanted to highlight that the face-to-face segment of 2021 BRS COPs is scheduled from 6 to 17 June. 2022 in Geneva, and there we will have further consideration of plastics-related matters and also the listing of PFHXS, it's also PFHX-related compounds. Thank you very much. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Kei. So now the floor is open for the discussion. Even I couldn't. Yeah, Roland, please.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for the overview. I also think that let's say the link between POPs and plastic is quite relevant, and also for the implementation with many of these industrial POPs, actually plastic additives. So from the projects you have in the list, are there also some of those projects really working on this interface, POP and plastic?
So there is one project that is looking at SCRC-KUWAIT, looking at the plastic pollution from monitoring perspective, and that will look at POPs concentration and so on. But addressing, if your question was about addressing POPs additives from legislative additives to plastics that are POPs from legislative views, I think that we still don't have a project that particularly focusing on that aspect.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
I think Mexico, regional center in Mexico also wanted to implement projects to understand the plastic pollution and impact of POPs from plastic pollution, but that was more from scientific point of view. And our comment to the regional center was that the project should also sort of contribute to policy making. So it should not end in just monitoring and have the data out, but it should work with the government to address the issue. So I think they are preparing to revise the project proposal.
Okay, yeah, no, that would be really good and interesting. Okay, yeah, thanks.
Okay.
So do anybody has any clarification or discussion? Even there is no chat also for the regarding this discussion. So yeah, I think now yeah, there is one from Paromida. Yeah.
Thanks for the question, for the comment. Yeah, I mean, if you have any follow-up questions or any needs for technical assistance projects, please write to me by email, and then
Yes.
we can
follow
up.
Yeah, Dr. Kei is always available, and if Paromida, please go ahead.
Hi, Kei.
Hi.
How are you? Doing good?
Okay. Very well.
Thank you. It was really an excellent presentation, especially the interesting part in POPs and plastics. And we are trying to see some interlinkages between the two in the waste stream of India. So yeah, definitely I'll get back to you with more technical parts. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dharamita.
Thank you, Dr. Sharida. So yeah, if if there is any further question or further discussion, Dr. Kei is always welcome, and you can send the email to Dr. Kei, and she is always supportive. And yeah, thank you so much, Kei.
Yeah.
So
yes,
please.
Yeah, maybe one more comment. I mean, which is interesting for the region, I think. You know, you have seen in Kei's presentation
that EU is funding, Germany is funding, France is funding, Norway is funding, Switzerland. Yeah, but actually, you know, one country group for which these projects are very important is actually the Middle East for all oil producing countries, because the oil production for combustion will decrease in the next 2 decades very much. So plastic production is one part of the business of oil producing countries. And you see at the moment so big pressure on plastic production because the management is not appropriate. So I think that the topic is also a topic for the rich countries in the region to maybe also think to support global efforts on plastic management, because it is your business model. So when you look to the countries, there was no country from the Middle East who did funding any of those projects. But please, and I know that you are changing your industry and that you have started more plastic productions and so on. So I would find it really interesting if some of the countries could also think to support the global management of plastic and improve the global management of plastic, because that's one of the big bottlenecks also in the developing countries. So just maybe something for your considerations and your brainstorming, if you also might be interested, or some of the countries, especially the oil producers, to support such international efforts, because that's a part of your future. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, Kei, and thank you, Roland. Actually, Roland, in KISS right now, there is a new program for plastic waste, or exactly waste management. And there is many projects right now, 5 projects about the plastic, most of them completed. So I agree with you, there is some interesting right now with the plastic, especially in Kuwait, because they funded many projects, and still there is some proposal in KFAS to fund it.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope the other country in the Gulf area, they have to take careful about this point, because as you said, the production of oil is dependent about the product, and plastic is one of the products. And the other way, regarding the environmental issues, yes, we need waste, regarding the waste. There is some problem regarding the waste management, and they have to keep following this guidance, especially from Stockholm, Basel, which is, I believe, some of these countries, they are not following this guidance, and they have to start with some project, how to manage and how to deal with the plastic. So I agree with you, this is a big issue, and it's a hot issue in the whole world, and it should be this country, the Arabian Gulf, the Gulf countries, especially the oil producer, they have to be careful about this point. I agree about this.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Hassan. And I mean, I have seen, you know, I'm doing work also in Africa, Asia, and I have seen in Africa that there is some support from Middle East countries. Also in Pakistan, I see you build mosques and so on. So I think it might be interesting that you sit together. I mean, maybe the OPEC and think, okay, so that global support for waste management, plastic waste management, could be, let's say, one working area from us, because it would be really good that it's coordinated. And I see these global conventions. I mean, there is also the discussion on a global convention on plastic. We will see when it comes, if it comes. Yeah, but at the moment we have already, let's say, this Basel Convention and also partly the Stockholm Convention who could support. So maybe if the different countries in the region, oil producers, discuss that you might also make a fund and see how it can be coordinated. And sometimes it's really good. You know, Germany, we have also our support for individual countries with the GIZ. But when you look to Norway, for example, Norway really put most of this money to Basel Convention, International Convention, because that's a good mechanism to, let's say, to manage these projects and coordinate these projects, which is a very important, let's say, to make the best impact out of the money.
Yes, Roland, I agree about this. The problem is actually what's going on. The decision maker in this area, probably he is not aware about the plastic and the most important in that area, because we are a producer, oil producer, and plastic one of the product. So the problem, I think, the decision maker, and we are not the decision maker, but probably from our regional center, we will try to, by steering committee of the regional center, how to keeping this country to be following this guidance, especially the Basel, Stockholm, and you see it is a hot issue right now, and they have to be following this hot issue. They cannot be keeping away from what's going on in the world. So probably from our regional center, we did something. Let's think about that to push these countries to do something like this.
Okay. Yes. Super. Yeah. Thank you. Good.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Hassan. Thank you, Roland, and thank you, Kei, for the wonderful discussion. So now I think we can have a short break. Like we will have a 10 minutes break, and we will be back to floor on 10:50 on Kuwait time. So just have a cup of tea. Thank you.
Thank you. See you then.